Masechet Yoma, Daf Yod Gimel. We are going back to the Mishnah. Mishnah mentioned that according to Rabbanan, we get a replacement Kohen Gadol just in case the Kohen Gadol becomes Pasul or Tameh. And then we had the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, who says he needs also a replacement wife because the Kohen Gadol has to be married. And what if his wife should die? So you need a replacement wife. So we're going to go and analyze their conversation and dig deeper into their reasoning of each side. So the rabbis say back to I'm starting here. Rabbi Yehuda omer, af isha acheret matkinin lo, v'Rabbanan nameh hachashi l'shema. Now, a question to the rabbis. The rabbis, you do worry about a possibility of something bad happening, like, for example, if the Kohen Gadol becomes Tameh. So why aren't you worried about another possible negative thing happening, like the Kohen's wife dying? How come you don't say that you need a replacement wife? It depends on the statistics. It's likely that someone becomes tameh. There's so many ways to become tameh, so we have to worry about that. The chances of this person suddenly dying on Yom Kippur itself are very unlikely, so we don't have to worry about unlikely possibilities. Okay, now the rabbis say back to the Yehuda, there's no end to it. If you're going to worry about small possibilities, then okay, maybe the replacement wife will also die. So you maybe need a third one or a fourth one, right? I mean, you can go on forever if you're going to worry about even the tiniest possible thing going wrong. So the Gemara says, "Shapir kamre le Yehuda." They said the rabbis have a good point, right? You don't worry about every little thing. How will the Yehuda respond? This is a difference between one person dying, the Kohen Gadol's wife. It could happen, right? That she'll die. The chances that his wife and the replacement wife will both die on Yom Kippur, that's not twice as unlikely. It's exponentially more unlikely, which is true statistically. So therefore, but to that extent, you don't have to worry. So he's calculating the stats. A small chance, yes, but not an infinitesimal chance he doesn't have to worry about. Okay, now V'Rabbanan, how would they respond to that? There is a difference between the cases. He says, no, the chances are both so small. If you're going to worry about one wife dying, then you may as well worry about two wives dying, and then you have to keep going. So Rabbanan say all the chances are so small that they really don't have to worry about them at all. And the Yehuda says, no, this one is one person dying is bigger chance that you do have to worry about, not two. Now, how come the rabbis don't take their own advice? They say, if you're going to worry about one, then worry about two. Why don't they apply that to the Kohen Gadol becoming Tameh? If the Kohen Gadol can become Tameh, why don't you worry that the replacement Kohen Gadol can also become Tameh? And now you need a understudy for the understudy, right? If the president and the vice president both incapacitated to get the Speaker of the House, why don't you have a third and a fourth Kohen Gadol ready? Because you do worry about Tumah. It is more likely. Kohen Gadol Zarizhu. No, you don't have to worry. This Kohen Gadol is vigilant. He's going to make sure not to become Tameh. He's going to be very careful. So we don't have to worry. It's very unlikely. Well, if he's so vigilant, then why do you need even one replacement Kohen Gadol? Kohen Gadol will be vigilant, so make up your mind. Said no. Kivan de Abdina le Sarah. It's the opposite. Because he knows that there is a replacement Kohen Gadol, that's why the Kohen Gadol will be extra careful. He knows that if he messes up and touches something he's not supposed to, then there's someone waiting to take his job. So that actually will encourage him to be extra vigilant. He calls him a Sarah, like we saw yesterday, the same word used as a co-wife, who will always have jealousy and hatred. So, the Kohen Gadol, if you would tell him, listen, Kohen Gadol, try not to become Tameh, but if you become Tameh, it's okay. Then he might not be so vigilant. So having the replacement there is not just a safety net. It actually also will make him even more vigilant. All right, so that's a good psychological evaluation. All right, now the next topic is we're going to go on for some time about this question. how will it even help? According to the Biuda, you get this replacement woman. So she's in some, in some house nearby, just in case the Kohen Gadol's wife dies. But she's not actually his wife, right? He's only married to the first wife. There's thus a woman in waiting, but she's not his. She's not. They're not married yet. So beto amarachamana behach lav betohi. The whole point of this Biuda's law is says that he v'chiper ba'ado u'ba'ad beto. The Kohen Gadol has to have a wife because he is going to atone for his own family, and through that he'll understand what it means to atone for others, and then he'll atone for the whole nation. So it's important that he be married. Okay, good. We understand. Beto means his wife. But now, if his wife should die, there's another woman, but that other woman he's not married to, so it's not his wife. So how does it help that there's a wife in waiting? So the answer is the Mekadeshla. Before Yom Kippur, they do Kiddushin, gives a ring, Haret Mekudeshet. Okay, and now she's waiting. Nevertheless, they didn't do nisuin. He didn't bring her into his home, right? Or a chuppah. We make a chuppah. It's like a symbolic home. You're bringing her in. They didn't do nisuin. They're not fully married, so they're not. It's not still not his wife. So we answered the kanesla. He does nisuin too. Before Yom Kippur, does kiddushin, nisuin. They have a whole wedding, and now he's fully married. All right, that sounds good. Im ken hava leshene batim, v'rachamana v'chiper ba'ado ba'ad beto v'lo ba'ad shne batim. But this is no good either, because the Torah says he has to, because then he'll have two wives. The Torah says he should atone for himself and his wife, beto, not plural batim shelo. So therefore he has to be married only to one wife, not to two. So this is now still a problem. Answer: the hadar megaresh la, he divorces her. Wait a second. If he divorces her, then we have the original question. What are you going to do? Before Yom Kippur, he does Kiddushin, does Nisuin, and gives her a get. Okay, but now they're not married anymore. So now you still have the same problem. If his wife should die, he's not divorced. Okay, this is like we're going around in circles. It's like a comedy show, right? Okay, we're going to see just an intro to what we're going to have. This is... a very unusual style of the next questions. We're going to see lots of questions and answers that they're just like throwing darts at a board. I think this is to try to explain the genre. Elsewhere there's a midrash that says a pasuk in Kohelet that Divrei Torah kedarbonot. The words of Torah, darbonot, literally means like a goad, a cattle prod. It leads us on the right way, it shows us the right way to go. But the rabbis make a midrash, kedar banot is really two words, kadur banot. It's like a ball that the little girls play with when they play catch. One throws it to the other and they're having fun, right? One throws it too far, the other one tries to catch it too high. And I think the rabbis are being playful here in their back and forth. It's almost like they're throwing things out to the students. I think not just playful, but also as a logical exercise. Here, try this. Does this work? Will that work? You can see if you can find all the problems. See if you can find a solution to it. Okay, so that's an intro to the next few lines, where we're going to see a very playful attitude and have fun with it. You can just imagine the rabbis in the Bet Midrash challenging and having fun with their students. Okay, so now we're back to our problem. That what do we do? How do we have him have one wife, and nevertheless, just in case the first wife dies, then he'll only have one wife left. So he can marry her, then he has two wives. If he doesn't marry her, then he's left without a wife. So here's going to be our solution. You can always give a get on condition, right? So I can give you a get on condition that you will, fulfill a certain thing, that you will give me $100. So you can make any kind of condition on a get. So here's what he does. He says, I'm giving you a get. He gives it to her before Yom Kippur starts and says, this will be your get on condition that you die on Yom Kippur. Okay, now how does this help? Well, if she ends up dying, if she dies on Yom Kippur, the second wife, then that means she was already divorced and he has only one wife. And now if she does not die and his first wife does die, and the second wife stays alive, then the second one is not a get. And in that case, he will also have only the second wife. Now, this solves a problem if one of them dies. but it doesn't solve the another problem. The deal malamaita. What if nobody dies, and now he's married to the first, and he has a condition with the second. If you die, this is a get, but she doesn't die. She stays alive, then she stays alive and she's married. And batim. And now you still have the same problem. So you really didn't solve anything there. I mean, you solved one case, but you still have left open another case. Let's try the opposite, right? We're trying this one, we're trying the opposite, and now we'll think through the consequences. It's not a real good solution. So he says, here is your get. He tells the second wife, here's your get on condition that you don't die on Yom Kippur. So how does that help? If she doesn't die, then it kicks in Migad Shala. Then she's end up divorced from the beginning of Yom Kippur. So he has only one wife. If she does die, well, it's okay because he always has the first wife. So basically, either way, he's not married to the second, because if either she dies and she's not alive, or she doesn't die and therefore she's divorced. So that will solve the problem of him having two wives. It doesn't solve the problem, though. The main thing that we're trying to figure out, what if his first wife dies? So v'dilma hi la maita v'hava le gita dehai gita umaita chaverta v'kam le belo bait. So what if she doesn't die and the get is therefore a good get? So she's not married to the second wife, and chaverta, meaning his main wife, she does die. So now he has 0 wives, and that was the problem to begin with. So that's not good. Okay, here he tells the second wife, here's your get, and it will kick in. This will be a good get on condition that either you or the other wife dies. If one of you dies, then this is a good get. Well, this also has a lot of problems. So maitaha kaimahach, maitaha hach kaimaha. So first we say, well, maybe it works because if the second one dies, the first one's still alive. If the first one dies, the second one is alive. Yeah, but there's other problems with it. Maybe neither of them will die. If they both stay alive, then the condition never kicks in. So the get is never a get, and he's married to 2 people. There's other problems with this also, but we don't have to bring them up because there's already one problem. And besides, this is not even a valid condition on a get. I said before, you can make lots of conditions on a get, but not any condition. You cannot make a condition that will be permanent, that will last the woman's entire lifetime. Why? Because the Torah says sefer kiritut has to be a document that separates them totally. So even if you say, that you on condition you have to pay me within 30 days, you have to pay me or something like that, you can make a condition. It has to be something that either fulfilled or not fulfilled within some time period, right? I can say on condition that you don't go to Disney World within the next year, right? That's okay. But if I say that you don't do something your whole life, then that's not, you never separated the husband and the wife, because her whole life she never knows, are we fully separated? The condition might always kick in. And that's what happens here. If I say, here's you get, you're divorced from now, we're separating on condition that you don't drink wine your whole life, or that I don't drink wine my whole life. Now, these are not valid conditions, because right now, her entire life or my entire life, since, we're never separated, because it could be at any point in time before I die or before she dies, if someone takes a drink of wine, then it was not a valid divorce. And so she's always connected and saying, maybe I'm not divorced. So this is not a good condition. And therefore, this is the same thing. So over here, this is the same thing. If he says this divorce is on condition that one of you dies, well, she's not going to die until she dies, right? Meaning her whole life, this condition will be active, and therefore you cannot have a condition that's active someone's whole life. On the other hand, if you say, listen, this get, I give you a get, and as it's valid as long as someone else doesn't as long as someone else doesn't drink wine all of their days, that's okay, because it's dependent on the third party, and that third party may die before either the husband or wife. So there is some point at which the condition will be final. And so that is a sefer kiritut. So it's okay to depend it on someone else's life, but not on the wife of the husband or the wife. So therefore, there are many problems with this solution. And that's an interesting law about about conditions on gitin. So we try something else. Ela damar la hareze gitech al menat shelo tamut chavertech. So we'll remove the half of that of the previous condition. So I give you a get and says this get will kick in on condition that the first wife does not die. Now let's see how that works. If the first wife does not die, then the second wife is retroactively divorced. So then he has one wife. That's good. If the first wife does die, then then the condition is nullified, right? The condition does not stand, and the get is not a get because she in fact died. And so the second wife remains married. And there you go. We solved the problem with this condition. Okay, this looks like a very good solution, but now we're going to bring in yet another factor. Maybe the first wife will die in the middle of the day. And since the first wife died, well, that was the condition, on the condition that she doesn't die. So therefore, the get is not a good get. So therefore, he's married to the second wife the whole time. And the first wife died in the middle of the day, which means the first half of the day, he was married to two wives. So this is not good. Let's try the opposite. He tells the second wife, this is your get on condition that the first wife does die. Wait, that also doesn't work. Maybe the first wife will die, and then that will kick in the get. Now his first wife died, and he divorced the second wife. Now he has no wife at all. So that's really not good. So rather, here's what he's going to do. He's actually going to give two gitin, both to his regular first wife and to the second replacement wife. And they're both going to have a condition, but different conditions. To the second one, he says, this will be a get if the first wife doesn't die. So that way, if the first wife stays alive, he's good. He has one wife. He doesn't need the second one. So that get will retroactively be effective, and he's married to only one. And to his first wife, his regular wife, he says, this is your get on condition that you don't go to a shul on Yom Kippur. So now it's in her hands, right? She can see what happens if the second wife ends up remaining alive. She can always walk into a Bet Knesset, and that will trigger the get. All right, so this is your get on condition, right? So actually, if she doesn't go into a Bet Knesset, then it will be a get. So she'll be divorced from the first. He'll be divorced from the first wife, and he'll be with only the second wife the whole time. And if she sees that the second wife is dying or has died, then she can always walk into a Bet Knesset, and the get will be nullified, and then he'll reign with the second wife, with the first wife. Okay, poor guy has to divorce his regular wife in a regular case. So the deal. Wait a second. Maybe the second wife won't die, and now she's supposed to walk into a Bet Knesset. What if she doesn't? She says, I don't want to trigger it. Oh no, she walks in. She doesn't walk in, and then because she doesn't walk in, it is a get. And both of them actually kick in, and now he's divorced from both. And he has no control over his first wife. Maybe she won't fulfill the condition as is supposed to happen. This is going to be our final answer to one. He says, meaning the second wife. Let's say he says, this is your get on condition that the first wife does not die. So then, if the first wife stays alive, the second wife will be divorced. He has only one wife. This is he tells his first wife, this is your get on condition that the Kohen Gadol says, I go to a Bet Knesset. Usually he's not going to go to a Bet Knesset on Yom Kippur. He's in the Bet HaMikdash the whole time. But there's Bet Knesset nearby. You can always take a break and walk into a Bet Knesset if he needs to trigger the get from the first wife. For example, if the second wife remains alive, then he can do that. So di maitaha kaimaha vi maitaha kaimaha. So whatever, if one of them dies, you can always the divorce of the other one will kick in, and the other way around. So this seems to work. Now, Maika lememar dilma maitecha verta bepalga da avoda babad leavoda lemafreya b'shnei batim. What are you worried about? Why did we get into this whole thing? That maybe the first wife will die in the middle of the day. And then they'll end up having that he was married to two wives for the first half of the day. So here's the solution. If the Kohen Gadol sees, right, they say, oh, listen, your first wife, she just had a heart attack and she's about to die. She has only 3 minutes to live. So no problem. So he'll run to the Bet Knesset, enter into the Bet Knesset. As soon as he does that, it triggers the get. Then he was retroactively divorced from his first wife from before Yom Kippur started, and that way he's married only to the second wife. And her condition is, this is your get on condition that the first wife doesn't die. So if she does die, then it's not a get, and so he's married only to the second. Okay, good. We have a solution. Matkifla, but we're not done with questions yet. Matkifla Rav Aseh ve'itema Rav Avira. Ela me'ata shetei yevamot habot mibayit echad lo yityabemu yivimto riba. Okay, so now it's a question on the derivation. We said the Kohen Gadol has to be married to one wife because it says v'chiped ba'ado ba'ad beto. So therefore beto means singular, one wife. Now this is going to be a problem for the laws of Yibum. In general, if a man is married to one wife and he dies without children, so his brother is obligated to do Yibum. And we learn that from the last Pasuk 9 over here. It says, Asher lo yivne et bet achiv. If he refuses and does chalitza, she goes up and says, look at a shame on this man who does not build the bet achiv, the house of his brother, meaning the wife of his brother. He's not taking care of his brother's wife. Now it says bet, meaning singular, right? Not bate echav. So what happens if someone is married to two wives? A man's married to two wives and he dies without children. Now, would you say that the law of Yibum does not apply because it says bait and singular and not plural? Would anybody say that? We don't say that. That's not the halacha. But following through on your derivation that the Kohen Gadol has to be married to one wife. If bait means one wife, then it has to be one wife here. So the answer is no. It's different over here because it says yivim to twice, right there in the first pasuk. Lakachat yivim to ba'atal yivim to. Pasuk 9 it says it again actually. But because it has yivim to twice, that includes even if there are more than one wife. So therefore, the word bayit by itself does mean one wife, but the word the doubling of yivim to here teaches us that even if he's married to two wives, you have to do yibum. Next question. Matkifla Rabina vitemarav sherebia elemata arusa lo tityabem. Since you just said that beto, remember, it wasn't good enough for the Kohen Gadol to just do kiddushin. He has to actually be married. So beto means married. Now, what if someone does kiddushin with a woman and then he dies without children? So does Yibum apply? According to you, since it said the word beto, right? So you only have to do Yibum if it's beto, if he's married, and not if it's only kiddushin. But that's not the halacha. So how are you going to explain? Where are you going to derive the obligation for that? This as well is from actually a pasuk a little bit before that says uben elot lo tieh eshet hamet hachutza leish zar. And peshat means that the surviving wife should not, eshet hamet, the wife of the dead brother, should not go hachutza lishar, should not have to go outside and marry a stranger. Rather, her brother-in-law should take care of him. But the rabbis derive lo tieh eshet hamet hachutza. They take the word hachutza as an adjective to eshet hamet. What kind of eshet hamet? One that is an outsider, right? Meaning not fully married. So even though she's not fully married and she's still a half outsider, right? Because someone who does kiddushin, she can't marry anybody else, but she's not really yet married to that brother. Nevertheless, is still required to have yibum done. And so we learned it from that word. But you're right. Otherwise, if it had beto by itself, it would mean one wife that you are married to. So we solved all those problems. Good. Tenor Rabbanan Kohen Gadol Makriv Onen Ve'eno Ochel. Okay, this is not, we're going to see how this is relevant to our discussion. The beginning of it is not immediately relevant. This is another halacha that we're going to tie in. It says Kohen Gadol, if he's Onen, a close relative dies, the day of the death, is person is Onen, acute mourner. He can nevertheless, he's Kohen Gadol, he can still perform his services as Kohen Gadol. It's permitted, but he cannot eat from any of the korbanot. So he can do it, but he can't eat them. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Kol Hayom. Rabbi Yehuda says this cryptic word, all day. Now, we're not sure what Rabbi Yehuda meant by this word, all day. What is he arguing about? What is it? He can eat, he can't eat, he can't serve. What is he saying? Well, let's see a couple of different interpretations to try to figure out what Rabbi Yehuda meant. My Kol Hayom, Amar Rava, lo nisrecha ela lahavi'o mitoch beto. Rava says, not only is the Kohen Gadol allowed to serve, we make him serve. Let's say he's home and crying and sad. We say, sorry, you're Kohen Gadol. You got to come out. You got to serve today. That's your job. And that way, maybe it will help ease his pain that he's involved in the avodah and won't think too much about his loss. So that's what he means, Kol Hayom. Yes, he has to serve the whole day. So Abaye challenges this. It says, Rabbi Yehuda, in another source, actually says the opposite. So it doesn't make sense for that he would be the one to say, not only can he serve, but he has to serve. Because look what he says in this Braita. Tanya haya omed umakriv al gabeh hamizbeach. V'shama shemet lo met. Manech avodato v'yoseh. Rabbi Yehuda's opinion is, if a Kohen, it's not clear if it's talking about Kohen Gadol, probably talking about just a regular Kohen. A Kohen is serving, and all of a sudden he hears news, a close relative died. So he should just stop what he's doing and leave, someone else will take over. That's Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. Rabbi Yosef says, let him finish what he's doing first. Don't stop in the middle, and then he'll go home. So you see that Rabbi Yehuda is the one that says he should stop in the middle and go home. So does it make sense that Rabbi Yehuda would be the one to say, bring him from his house and come and serve? So this doesn't make sense. Rabbi Yehuda would be the one that's machmir on him, if in this other source he's mekel in general on kohanim who are onenim. So Abaye therefore offers a second interpretation. Ela amar Rava, mai kol hayom, lomar sheno oved kol hayom, gezerah shema yochal. Opposite. Rabbi Yehuda meant to say he should not serve. The Tanakh Kama said he may serve. Rabbi Yehuda says no. The Kohen Gadol should not serve if he's onen because he may eat. He's not supposed to eat, right? But we just said onen can serve but not eat. But if he's there and he's doing everything, then there's a chance that he's going to end up eating. Without realizing. Wait a second. Would be the one to say that we're worried maybe he will come to eat? Matkinin lo shema tamut ishto. V'mayta ishto aved avoda velo gazar Rabbi Yehuda shema yochal. So we have in our Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda was the one that said we worry that maybe his wife will die, and so we bring a second wife for him. Now, if his wife dies, that means he's still serving, right, in the Bet HaMikdash and doing work. And Rabbi Yehuda did not make a gezerah. He didn't say, oh, if his wife dies, then he should go home, right? Because he might come to eat something. He didn't say that. He says he continues to serve, and we get a second wife. So it doesn't make sense that Rabbi Yehuda, this is the same Rabbi Yehuda, be the one that said beforehand that you worry about him making a gezerah. But there's a good answer. You're comparing that case before that happens all year round to Yom Kippur. Hatam kevan the Yom Kippur hu tekulam alakachle hunami laatem lemechal. On Yom Kippur, he's fasting. Nobody's eating. He's not going to come to eat. You don't have to worry that he's going to, right? The other Kohanim are not eating either. So for sure he's not going to eat. That's why even though his wife died and he is onen, and Onen cannot eat, but Yom Kippur he's definitely not going to eat anyway, so he can continue to serve. We don't have to worry. But in a regular case, all year round, where if his close relative dies, and then all the Kohanim are all eating, that's just the regular thing to do. In that case, well, he might just forget and ends up eating with them. So in that case, we do make a gezerah, and Kohen Gadol cannot serve. Good. Hold on. Now we're connecting it to what we said before. In such a case, right? Remember, if his wife dies on Yom Kippur, then is he really onen? We said he will walk into a Bet Knesset, and that way retroactively his wife will have been divorced, right? Because we don't want, if someone dies in the middle of the day, we don't want him to have two wives in the beginning of the day. And so he walks into Bet Knesset, and since she's divorced, he doesn't have to sit, right? He's not onen. He's not a close relative anymore because she was divorced before. So then in that case, there wouldn't be any problem at all. It wouldn't be onen. The answer is nihid aninut la chayila le atrode mila mitrid. So okay, fine. Maybe he's not technically an onen because he was just retroactively divorced, but nevertheless, he's still very troubled over his wife who died. So it still has the same psychological effect, and he won't be able to fully concentrate on his avodah. So therefore, he's still considered similar to the category of onen. So fascinating back and forth. And I think this is just shows that the Kohen Gadol really has to separate himself from everybody else and totally devote his mind and all of his efforts and connections and thoughts to the service and to bringing atonement for Am Yisrael. And yes, he has to have a family in order to feel that connection to atone for his family and thereby atone for everybody else. But otherwise, when he has to be protected from feeling that sense of mourning and thereby be unable to serve. So he has to always have this wife, at least one wife in waiting, no matter who it is. Baruch Adonai Olam, Amen ve'amen.